Alright, so what we're going to show now to finish up with the AFO casting is we're going to show how to properly measure for the AFO, and then we're also going to talk about how we then tape the AFO once it's all said and done to keep it together. And as you can see what we've got here, I went ahead and put a piece of tape just above the ankle here. And I got a pretty big piece and just taped it around once or twice just to keep it from separating. There is still going to be some drying that this does, and so you want to try to keep it as close together as possible so when it's shipped, it doesn't try to make some funky waves in the leg and the patient comes back with a goofed up AFO. So you can do more tape than that, but it'll hold just like that. It shouldn't grow any bigger. So what we're going to do now is go to, in the back cabinet, there is the Grapevine AFO log, which houses obviously all of where the records of our shipping of the AFOs, but it also holds the orders for those. So today, since we did the TCO, which is the total control orthosis, we pull that, which when the patient is in the room, the doctor is casting, this is already done. We have this on the chart. This is just for completeness sake. So we're going to talk about the measurements here, which you can kind of see the required measurements. There's about 4 of them on this one. So 2 of them are the width of the forefoot, and the other one is the width of the ankle. And so for that we have a special little widthamizer.
Caliper,
Widthamizer, whatever you want to call it. So the first measurement is going to be the width of the forefoot at the metatarsal heads. And so basically with the patient still there, all you're going to do is take the caliper and you're going right to as close to where you would guess the metatarsal heads would be. Obviously you can kind of feel around and get an idea of where they're at, and you want to just go for what would be the widest part. And you want to make sure with the caliper you're not pushing into the skin and you're also not just barely touching it. You want to make sure so it's resting on the skin. So this one would be just below 4 inches, and so you want to make sure that you're there. When the measurement you do, you're measuring twice because you don't want to get the wrong measurement. And so look, kind of gauge of where it's at, and then when you put it on there again, you want to make sure and look down and make sure that that is the exact measurement that you wrote. And so you'll write that down. The next one, of course, is the width of the ankle joint at the widest part. And so with the patient, you're basically taking the caliper and you're doing the exact same thing that you did with the width of the forefoot. I can move my leg here to show you that. And again, you're not pushing into the skin, you're not digging. All you're doing is resting it on the skin and making sure that it's stable. And so you get your number, and then just check it again and just make sure that's exactly what you got. The last 2 measurements is going to require, for the TCO, is going to require you to get a tape measure because it's a circumference measurement. So for this one, you're going to get circumference just above the ankle. And so obviously these tape measures, and you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but the actual measurement on the tape measure starts after this little nodule, I don't really know what you'd call that, doesn't matter. And so you want to make sure wherever you are with the 0, that's where you're going to hold it. Feed it around. And again, you're not wanting to suffocate the patient's ankle and get it as tight as you can. And I always like to lay it on top of it because it gives you just enough play to where you can get a great measurement there. And so, again, you'll record what you get there. And the last one from where you just measured from is going to be 3 inches above the ankle joint. So you just want to line it up. And this one is kind of hard. I always kind of have to do this little feeding trick to where you get it at least as close to where you want it. Feed it around. And again, you're not suffocating the patient's leg. Just mark where your 0 is at there, line it up, record what you get. The only other difference between the others, this orthotic and the other one, especially if you're doing the thermoplast AFO, which is usually the ones that they do for kids or people who are drop foot. There's about 4 more measurements for this one. So you do the exact same 4 that I just showed you, but the only difference is with the patient's foot on the ground. So you want them to be resting their foot on the ground. Basically, again, with the tape measure, you're going to do the finished height, which would be your 0 is going to start on the floor just below the ankle, or just below the heel, I'm sorry. And then you're going to rise. You'll bring it all the way up. And you're bringing this to the upper calf. And so what I always like to do is I like to feel for the fibular head, which his fibular head's about right here. And I usually go about, just like if you were doing a cast, the height that you would go. And so you want to be pretty precise and follow that every time, because otherwise these AFOs are going to come back all water jawed, and you don't want that. And so again, fibular head, 2 fingers down, and then you get that measurement there. The next one, you have to do height to the fibular head. So you're going, and this time I actually put the 0 right at the bottom of the heel. Feel for the fibular head. And you want to put it right at the fibular head. And you measure that. And the last thing that you're going to do is width at the fibular head. Again, you're not digging in the skin. You want to get it right at the head. And that's it.